Hi everyone, this is Olivia from the Alexandrienne channel. We are going to make an easy swirly dangles border. So if you're ready, let's just go ahead and get started. On this first image, you will see a curve that is higher on the left side and lower on the right side. So that's what we want to draw. Now put a swirl on either end of it. If you do the left one first, you would want to take your line, start where you left off, and start curving it down and around into a swirl. And when you get that done, go over to the far right where you stopped your line and create a swirl, only this time you want to go up and around to your left and down around into a swirl. And if there's any point where I'm going too fast or you just want to slow down, take some time, please hit pause and I'll be right here whenever you get back. Now I thought it's probably worth mentioning that this swirl on the right hand side is the biggest part of this image. So make for sure that you draw your swirl large enough. Okay? Once you get that finished, we'll go on to the next part, which is taking the swirl you just created and giving it kind of a three-dimensional effect. And in order to do that, what you want to do is create another line. This line will look a little reminiscent, say, of a ribbon, and this is how you do it. The very first thing to do would be go to the swirl that you just created, go part way back down the swirl, start on your original line, come out a little bit to create a little bit of width, and bring it on down and around the rounded portion and join it with your original line. That adds just a portion of width, not an additional line all the way through. Okay, now for the next line, which is the biggest line. This one is the very first line you created. You want to do the same thing with it. Add some additional width. And you want to go below your original line to do this. Again, start on your first line that you made, come down and out a little bit smoothly, and then follow it along. Bring it back in when you get to the point just about where your swirl starts, and join it with your first line. And then on to the last part. Once again, start on your original line and bring it down below your original line. And this one, it's almost, you widen it just in time to narrow it again and bring it back up and join your original line. And this will help to create a little bit of a three-dimensional appearance. And this can be a lot of fun to play with when you're doodling and drawing other things. You should give it a try. Okay, so we're all done with that. Now on to some dangling fun. This will be more like the traditional dangles in that they're vertical. They don't really defy gravity too much, except for the ones on top. Okay, let's get going. Now this first dangle is going to be the longest dangle in the entire design. And the reason we're drawing this one first is so we can use it as a reference to figure out the lengths of the remaining dangles, at least on the bottom side of the swirl. Okay, so let's draw the first one. And as I said, it's going to be the longest one. It would be helpful if you use the image as a reference about how long it should be. And the bottom of this dangle is going to end with a fairly large star charm. So that's what I would draw first. And then the dangle itself is all circles except for one pointed oval towards the very top. So reference that to see where to put the dots or circles. Now mind you, like I always say, you can put anything anywhere that you want on this, but if you're keeping with the design, it's all rounded except for that one little element there. Okay, on to the next. We are going to go ahead and draw the dangle on the far left, and there is no particular reason why other than I know it's the only one that's there, so I was just going to go ahead and draw that one and get it done so I could focus solely on the right side of the longest dangle. Now this dangle, it's a geometric one. It's basically got the same shapes as the one you just did, only with an additional diamond shape. and the diamond shape is a fair amount larger than the other shapes, but also reference the length of the total dangle when you're drawing this. Okay, now we are going to draw the shortest dangle in this design that's on the lower side of the swirl. And it is just a series of dots that get progressively smaller as you go down the dangle line. And you start it with a dot or a circle on top of your large swirly line, right where the farthest right swirl ends and starts into the long wavy line. So you put the circle right on top of that. Now, one thing that I have done because of the pencil marker issue is all the dots that are on top of a line, I have made them black. That way it won't matter if there's a marker line. You won't see it. But if you make this two color, consider leaving some of those white so you can paint them or marker them in a different color. Now what you want to do is find the approximate center between the longest dangle and the shortest dangle. And that's where you want to put your next dangle line. It doesn't have to be exact, just approximately. And on this one, the very bottom end, you could call it a charm if you wanted to, almost looks like a profile view, upside down mind you, of a flower, like a daisy. But again, this one is mostly all circles with the exception of what could be considered the little petals, which are actually teardrop shapes. So go ahead and create that and then we'll go on. Just thought I'd mention one more time, if you need to pause, please go right ahead. I'll be here when you get back. Okay, now you want to find the center point, or approximately the center point between the dangle that has a star and the dangle that has a little flower at the bottom. That's where you want to begin your next dangle. And on this dangle, it's just a series of swirls with dots. So you go up to your main swirly border and draw a straight line down just for a little ways, and then make a swirl starting off on your left, swirling around and then back up on your right. Just keep swirling until you have one. Done. Then you make another straight line down, and this time you do the opposite. You start your swirl off to the right and swirl on down, and you make a total of 4 of those. And it's kind of neat that when you stagger them left, right, it really does help keep it in a straight line. At least it does for me anyway. Once you get those done, then you want to make a circle or dot shape that's similar to the smallest dangle line that you have already done. You want to create, I have 4 here, but you can put however many you like. Make the circles and make them progressively smaller. And then that's it for that one. Alrighty, now to create the very last dangle that goes on the bottom side of your main swirl. And what you want to do with this one is find the approximate center, doesn't have to be exact, between the dangle that has a little flower at the bottom and the smallest dangle on the far right. And that's where you would create your line. And just a little lower than center, you want to make a fairly good size heart. Below the heart, you want to make a line and add 3 small circles under that. And that's all there is to this dangle. Now on to the dangles that go on top of your main swirly line. Okay, our first dangle on top is going to be a heart. It's smaller than the heart you made on bottom, but it's not tiny. And it'd be best if you reference a picture for this one. It's close to the far left, but inside to the right just a little bit. And probably one of the easier ways to make them on top is to decide where you want it to begin. So I tend to make, if it is a charm, I make that first and then draw my line. And if you're going to go that route, then go ahead and draw your heart. Look and see where you think is about right. Draw your heart and then join it to the main swirly line with a line. And in this case, just for interest, I went ahead and put a little, looks like an S curve partway down the line. And that's all there is to this one. And now to the left of your heart dangle, you want to add another dangle that is similar to a few that you've already done, where it's just dots that get progressively smaller. Only this time you want them to get progressively smaller the higher they get instead of the lower. And reference the picture, they're not very big. Just take you a moment to do this one. Super easy. Okay, now to the right of the heart that's on top, you want to make another very small dangle design, which is basically a circle with a modified diamond shape and then a larger circle that overlaps onto the top line of your horizontal bar. That's it. Very, very easy. And now for the final element in the entire design, which is a tiny little dangle on the top far right that hangs down off of your top right swirl on your main horizontal line. And this one, if you look at it, it's very, very easy to see. You just make a circle, tiny little line, and a small star. That's it. Now that we're all done with our design, I am going to talk about why I've made some of the choices that I've made instead of talking about color. First, I wanted to talk about the length of the dangle lines. And if you have not watched my video, The Angle of Your Dangle, that would probably be a good one to watch. And I will put the link to it below in the description box. Okay, this first image you'll see where I have kind of a V shape or a check mark shape in a red line, and that is to show you my logic for the length of my dangles. I wanted to begin and end on a high note, and when you make your outside dangles shorter, that tends to have more of an uplifting kind of feeling. It doesn't always work 100% that way. There are many variables to take into account, but just in general, it tends to work that way for me anyway. And I had the longest dangle at the bottom of this red line, which I've included as a point of reference. Okay, on to the next. Now you'll see a straight horizontal red line. And while every other dangle, first, third, and fifth dangles, are slightly different in length, they are pretty close to each other. And when you have a straight line, especially horizontal straight line, that really kind of gives you a sense of calm, stability, that kind of an emotion. And while I wanted it to be uplifting, I also wanted it to kind of show calmness. So that's why I did that. But I didn't want them to be exactly the same length because I didn't think that would look the way I wanted it to. So if you're making something and you want it to have a calm, steady feel, you can stagger them, but keep them somewhat close, around half or more. All right, now I wanted to talk just a little bit about balance. If you'll notice, the top right red circle, that's around the big swirl, which is the largest part of this design. And I wanted to put elements in this design that would help to balance it out. And since it was on the top right, I wanted to make the longest dangle close to the left. And I also wanted to put some element there that was large, which is the star at the bottom. And that will help to create balance in the design. And then to further enhance the balance, I put the little heart at the top left. And they work together as a team and help to create balance. Okay, and then under the big swirl, I put a little tiny star dangle. That helps to create interest, fill in the blank area that would have been there, as well as helping to create balance because it does have a point of interest and it matches the star at the bottom. They're both stars. So there's a lot going on here that helps with the balance. And this next image is just kind of reinforcing what I was talking about. You can see this triangle shape here with the little star, the heart, and the big star. Those three really help to balance out the big swirl. All right. And here I've put an image of what it would look like if those elements were not in the design. I've taken out the big star, the top dangles, and the little hanging star. And you see the image looks fine. I think I would stagger the length of the dangles a little bit differently, but the design looks fine. Another thing that I did was I used dots throughout the entire image because, well, if you've watched my videos, you know I love dots, but also because it helps to tie it together. Whenever you make something, if you repeat a certain shape throughout the design, it will help to tie that design together to create a whole image that works together. So that's one of the things I did with dots. And the other thing I did with dots, which you might have noticed, there are 3 dangles that have the dots that are rows of dots that progressively get smaller, starting with a large dot, working its way to a small dot. And I put one at the far left, one at the far right, and one just about in the center. Well, I think that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about any part of the video, please post them and I will definitely get back with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Much love, Olivia.